Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Glad to spend the next half an hour with you. Look forward to an engaging conversation. I'm excited to be having this conversation with Mr. Niteesh Srivastava from MACLEODS Pharma. Niteesh is a senior vice president at MACLEODS and he has substantial experience leading sales and marketing and market development in the Indian pharmaceutical market. Complex as it is, exciting as it is, high growth as it is, and promising as it is. So look forward to a half an hour of engaging conversation on COVID impact on the Indian pharmaceutical market, having a far-ranging conversation across therapeutic areas, clinical engagement in the way it's been redefined, and looking forward a little into the future in terms of what type of innovation is going to shape the market here. Welcome, Niteesh. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Pushpa, for your kind words and the introduction. And at the very outset, let me thank Voice of Health for giving this platform to voice over the opinion and the expression, I would say, and to talk something about the latest in the pharma.
Absolutely, Niteesh. I think exciting platform. This is, I've been on this before and couldn't agree more on this, really serving as a very, very far-reaching and broad voice in terms of the healthcare space. So I will dive straight in with that. And given Niteesh's depth of experience in the Indian pharmaceutical space across therapeutic areas, I'd love to start off hearing his thoughts around how the market composition, how sales have been impacted by COVID. Several industries have been beaten up, pharma not as much. So are we seeing a recovery, Niteesh, in the Indian pharmaceutical market? Is that more in chronic? Is that more in acute? What are the trends you're seeing across therapeutic categories in terms of recovery from the depressed state that the initial COVID problem led to?
Yeah, the interesting this era has been, or the year has been such, whether it's a pharma or any other industry, the every conversation starts with COVID and ends with COVID. Yeah, so it has impacted each one of our life, and so is the pharma world. So I would say, as compared to other industry, we are a little better off. We have not been impacted so much by the COVID, but still the impact has been there. If I talk about the first 4 5 months was really struggling, specifically for the acute business. It has been a tough journey, and the chronic therapy areas like cardiac, diabetic has still been on the forefront. I would say they have been the one which were driving the market, predominantly because the prescription sustainability is much higher, whether it's a cardiac or diabetic, which is there. But as the markets are opening up, things are looking brighter. If you look at the currently the whatever the IMS figures which comes up for the last month, the industry has shown a positive trend of 7%, which has been so that is looking very very positive. But yes, the market has still been driven by your cardiac, diabetic, CNS, GI, and gynec. The acute and respiratory is still remains to be low. They are still in the red, and the large degrowths are still being seen in the acute therapy areas. My take for this current situation is, from the organization point of view, probably this is the time the need to make a between the therapies and the portfolio. The companies needs to decide what is their priority, and accordingly, probably the chronic is the one where the more money needs to be spent, or that should be on the priority as far as this the business perspective is concerned.
Interesting. In fact, it's probably quite akin to what I'm hearing from several hospitals and clinical experts, across domains. A lot of the mid-sized hospitals, I'm hearing numbers of around 50 to 70% pre-COVID volumes back up in terms of surgery and hospitalization-based procedures. Is that similar to what you are seeing in terms of market demand?
Yeah, surely. You are very rightly pointed out the things. If you look at the lot of medical colleges and the hospitals where the OPD was not running, the normal OPD was not running because they were all mostly converted to the COVID centers. So now they have slowly started opening up. The OPDs have started, and therefore the gradually the patient numbers are going to go up. The secondly, what has been there interestingly in these period, the class 2 or class B or class C town or even the interior markets which are there, they have opened up quite a bit. And you will find the general practitioners, they are having a better business or better patients as compared to the specialist which is there. In fact, during the COVID till this time, there has been a lot of restriction in terms of the public transports, and a lot of the interior patients or the village patients which used to come to the cities for their checkups and for their medical treatment, so they were halted, and that was one of the reason of the patient numbers going down, but now it has started recovering significantly, and you will find the almost 60-70% of the normal patient numbers have come back.
Interesting.
But yes, some of these specialities are still, I would say, they are still far from the normal, like pediatricians specifically. So they have been severely being hit, and still the numbers are very, very less. Probably, I feel once the school starts opening up after the April, May, or maybe or June, July, the things would be much better at that point of time.
Interesting. I mean, the fact that tier two probably has had a more robust recovery than tier one and chronic is recovering, both are aligned with probably investment thrust from Indian pharma companies now for several years. I've seen most pharma companies push harder into chronic, try to get deeper into tier two, tier three. So this is probably, so industry is probably well prepared, interestingly, and to be able to capitalize on this trend. So, just on the CNS point, Niteesh, you did mention that CNS has seen, an increase in demand. Are you seeing correlation of stress?
Very, very rightly pointed out. In yes, very, very significantly. If the molecules in the CNS are
I think we're having some network connectivity issue. I'll give Niteesh a couple of minutes to come back.
distancing, these all have created a very negative impact on the overall psychology of the people, which is there. The first, if let me talk about the patient.
Until Niteesh comes back up, we were
I think there was some disruption. Yeah, right.
Niteesh, I think
So
we're back up. Yeah, please.
yeah. So what I was talking about the during this COVID period, or even beyond that. Now, if you look at the CNS, is the one segment which is growing very rapidly. Now, the reason has been there are two type of patient population in because of the fear, there was lot of stigma, and there were a lot of the depression they have gone through, because and they are in a state of severe depression. And such patients are really, it's a kind of a PTSD kind of a syndrome. And they are reaching to the doctors for the purpose. Also, as I mentioned, the because of the economical distress, there has been the lot of families have been badly affected. And that has also brought in a lot of cases of the severe anxiety as well as depression. And that is the reason I would say the CNS is growing rapidly, and probably in the months to come, these numbers are going to go up further. Push.
Yeah, Niteesh, I think we're back.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about CNS, and I think interesting that, I mean, it's probably unfortunate that we've had this level of stress in the system, but it's probably also resulted in adding growth to an already high momentum therapeutic area. But it's good to have the awareness, though, that people are seeking treatment and going through, an improved health regimen. I'll shift gears here to talk about clinical engagement, and I know we chatted about this a little bit before. COVID
Pushpa, I think your net is little unstable, so I am not able to hear you.
now. Can you hear me now, Niteesh?
Yeah. Now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about how the world is not prepared for COVID, but also pharma sales reps are not prepared for it, prepared for it. So from perspective of clinician engagement, where traditionally you had a sales rep meet a doctor in the doctor's office, and that's how sales was driven. That's how clinician engagement was driven. Has the industry adapted to digital? Are we seeing, are we able to meet doctors in their clinics today? From for sales reps to do that, is it challenging? How have we adapted? What is the new normal on clinician engagement?
Yeah, it's a very pertinent question, and they point, because for pharma companies, this was the only medium, I would say, one of the major medium of promotion or reaching to the doctor was one-to-one interaction through the medical reps. Now, during the COVID time, what has happened? The medical rep for a doctor has been the least priority. They do not want to meet. First of all, they feel that probably they are not required, and they want to. And since the medical rep is one which is going from clinic to clinic, So probably the fear or stigma is he could be a source of infection, and therefore most of the clinicians they have or the medical association, they had put in the letter of not meeting with the medical reps. But now over a period of time, I would say the things have opened up. They are able to meet the medical rep, but with a certain distance. And what is happening at many a time, the doctor is coming out of his chamber and meeting the medical rep. He is coming, or the medical reps are being met at the staircases or the parking lot. And you will find some leading clinicians. There is a queue of the medical reps at the in the open parking lot area, and he's probably uh, uh, being heard in some way or other. But it's a difficult situation. And at the same time, if you look at the time allocated for the medical rep has reduced drastically from the clinician point of view. And therefore, the companies, it was really uh, uh, the one-to-one meeting is going to remain the major uh, the, the strategies or the way of reaching to the doctor. But the digital is definitely going to come in, or it has started coming in. It's okay for some time as far as the industry is concerned, and probably it is going to be the penetration is to go up significantly in the times to come. That is from the states like UP, Bihar, MP, that they're not very keen as far as the use in the digital media is concerned. It is predominantly more popular in South and in metro city. It is going to take time for them to understand the importance of digital reach. Companies need to start using limited pieces so that they remain in line, and by the time they can explore this. But the digital what the combination of the as well. Pushpa,
Yeah, Niteesh. Can you hear me, Niteesh?
yeah, can you
Okay.
hear
Yeah, no, your voice is breaking a
me?
little. Yes, I can. Yes, it was breaking a little before, but now I can hear you well.
Pushpa, you are muted.
Yeah, Niteesh, can you try talking again because your voice was breaking? Okay. So Niteesh, you were referring to how in Bihar and UP, for
Yeah, now,
instance,
yeah,
there
it
is
is
a
fine. Now I can hear.
yeah, there's a much lower adoption of digital as compared to the metros, but digital has made an inroad today. Is that
All
also
right. So
reflective of
what
what
you're
you're
saying,
seeing as a
always to see that
teleconsultation landscape? Niti, I was just wondering if that's also similar to what you're seeing in teleconsultations. Is that also more in, are you seeing a wide adoption today? Is that
yeah,
also in
exactly.
pockets? What's happening with teleconsultation today?
Yeah, teleconsultancy is during the lockdown period, it started in a big way, I would say. So I would say more than 50 companies must have launched their platform, and they are realizing it as a big opportunity. At this point of time, it has not been so widely adopted. So it has been slowly adopted, predominantly mostly by the high end specialists. If you're talking about say cardiologists and diabetologists, probably they were the ones who adopted, or the neurologists who adopted on a primary basis. General practitioners of normal consultations, they have not it has not been so far so successfully patient physically. The benefit of the teleconsultancy and the kind of the medical record they can keep through these platforms, and the ease of having access to those medical records probably can help the indicate this concept. You'll find the teleconsulting platform one important the the parameter is the patient, and the patient has to be the friendly or enough to use the platform. And the major market, look at UP, where the patient as well as the friendliness with these platforms uh, very
Okay, I think we lost Niteesh while we wait for him to come. We were talking earlier about impact of teleconsultation, and I was firstly intrigued by again, just like in the case of the digital connectivity with clinicians, how Niteesh was pointing to a very different landscape in tier one, tier two, and really the digital push being more in pockets as compared to widespread. Welcome back, Niteesh. Uh, you were, do you want to make a closing remark on the teleconsultation, and we can, talk about nutraceuticals and innovation trends?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if the if teleconsultancy has to successful, it has to be as simple and as friendly as WhatsApp. So if that is the kind of a paradigm comes into the picture, probably this will have a long-lasting impact. Otherwise, at present, it is not. It is at the very premature stage, I would say.
Yeah, it has to be really intuitive. People have to take to it with ease, right? And I actually see a lot of doctors using WhatsApp. If there was platforms as convenient as that, that shift will be probably more organic. I'll shift gears here to talk about innovation trends. I know when we were chatting earlier, you were referring to how nutraceuticals are picking up. There are, in terms of innovation that's driving, validation, adoption. Do you see greater pull in supplements, nutraceuticals, and non-pharma products as well?
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the future, the real new product, what a lot of changes which has happened in the new products lines are drying up, and therefore real new products are very limited in number. The secondly, the companies or the dictate of the government is more of a towards the generic, I would say. And even the leading companies have started becoming the generic kind of a proposition, and therefore it is important that the some kind of a innovation would be required for the sustaining this business. And if I talk about the innovation, then probably the nutraceutical is the one area which the companies need to take up in a big way, and that is the one where the lot of the scope of new product and the new this taking it to the various therapeutic categories could be a really very interesting, and this could be the growth driver in the future. The another thing could be of the how to create a formulation differentiation. And because if there are one molecule and the 50 brands are there or 100 brands are there, and the quest is why should your brand being preferred over the others, and therefore some kind of a formulation development, the innovation is required. So that your therapy can become more targeted, or in terms of more efficacy, or in terms of reducing the side effects. So some differentiation, if you are able to create, and probably you will be winner. And this is how the Indian pharma companies are going to work in the next 5 years. Probably the more the efforts are going to be there in the formulation development side, so that there some innovation can develop.
And you also see that going into drug device combinations and delivery innovation as well in the overall world of formulation work that's happening.
Absolutely. And if you look at this, even the global research and the experimentation which is happening. So even they are talking about the timed release and the kind of monitoring the release of the molecule inside your body also. So those kind of innovation can really be we are looking forward to, and that is how the industry is going to move forward.
And what about areas like biologicals and biosimilars? Niteesh, do you see an uptake? Do you see pull demand and unmet need?
Already, this has all made good inroads in the Indian pharma industry. If you look at especially the oncology and the nephrology area, you have already started seeing the entry of the biologicals. This is going to go up, but this is going to remain kind of a niche, I would say, because of the two reasons. First, the cost of therapy is going to be very high into this. Secondly, if the Indian company wants to develop it, a lot of infrastructure is required for the development. The thirdly, from the clinician point of view, there is required to develop a lot of trust about the efficacy and the effectiveness of your biosimilars. The doctors presently, if you look at, they have a more inclination towards the original biologicals, and the biosimilars who are relatively lesser in cost, but still they have a lesser market and lesser prescriptions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of those complexities, I mean, for instance, a couple of biosimilars are now price capped. These are oncology institutional products. So I'm personally not understanding what are the drivers for market expansion, because patient is ultimately not benefiting today from any hospital and company price negotiation. So volumes still seem to be expanding not as rapidly as you'd want them to grow in the
Yeah,
biologic space.
this is going to remain little. The prices are going to remain prohibitive. So till the time somebody achieves the economy of scale, as far as these biosimilars and biologicals are, and unless it is a compulsion, the uses are going to be limited. And so if you look at the any of the reports of 5 years, 10 years back, when they were the biologicals had started coming in, and they were they reporting, and they're presuming that this is going to be a huge market. That has not happened in reality. So still we are little nascent as far as this biologicals are concerned.
Probably, it's it's a category where in the next decade we'll be doing a lot more to address the need, rationalize prices, expand access. When we started, I know we're towards the end of our time, but I know when we started, you were talking about how today all conversations start and end with COVID. Uh, Given what we were talking about earlier, I probably want to make sure that we don't end with COVID. Look beyond COVID, and we are, on that rebound of recovery. You were talking about how several therapeutic areas, in fact, chronic has recovered in a very healthy way today. There is an uptake of nutraceuticals, there's formulation innovation that's on an upswing. When you look forward for the next 5 years, what would you point to as most significant trends that you foresee in the Indian pharma market?
See, the history or the story or lifeline of Indian pharma has always been very challenging. So you can be assured that the best of innovation is going to come from this industry. As far as the sustenance of the industry is concerned, there are some very vibrant and positive trend which I can foresee, which is going to happen. The first, the entire gamut of the companies is going to have a dramatic shift from the doctor-centric approach to the patient-centric approach. And you have already seen the lot of the similar things have started happening, but this is in future, I would say this is going to be the main line of promotion from the pharma companies one way. And so the doctors who are going to remain as busy as they are today, their patient journey is going to be handled by the pharma companies, and that is how one pharma company is going to differentiate itself from the other. The second important thing which I can see is the development of this online pharmacies as well as the chain of pharmacies. So in terms of the distribution pattern, if I can tell you, and therefore as a company we need to be ready to kind of face this kind of a disruption. Pharma companies have been very used to of seeing the traditional model of the distribution, but these chain of pharmacy and the online pharmacy has is going to break the barrier of the price to a large extent, and therefore how the companies are going to handle these challenges, that is something which needs to be taken into account, but this is definitely going to happen. Probably you will find the India is in a way is going to have a US kind of a model where you have a kind of a lot of generics, and you are as a generic company, instead of concentrating your effort towards the doctor, probably your effort is toward the chain of the pharmacy, so that you channelize your product into that. Probably something of that kind can happen in the India also. The third important point could be this: the nutraceuticals are definitely going to have a big say into the market. The lot of self care and the parallel care products are going to have a predominance into the market. Uh, then the use of the technology in this industry has going to go increase in a several fold. A lot of that is going to depend upon the government's policy also. But suppose if the government want to have a data of the prescription and the doctors, the how much is their the patient, how is their patient flow or disease flow, if they want to document that, probably they need to digitize, which currently the doctors are hesitating to do to that word. But in the various other, whether it's a distribution or it's a R&D or it's a production, so that the use of technology and digitization is going to come in a big way, which is there. So I think this is what is has been the important the breakthroughs which you are likely to see in the future.
That's very encouraging. Thank you. And I'm particularly intrigued by what you were mentioning on patient centricity is going to increase versus just clinician centricity today. Can you elaborate a little more? It's a very exciting thought. Are you seeing greater patient engagement? How do you envision this panning out?
See, currently, what happens? For selling its a product, a company reaches to the doctor. promote its product, ultimately gets the prescription, which is there. But what is required to be done probably in the future is to track down the entire journey of the patient, right from the when the first he sees the symptoms, is testing the symptoms, he goes to the doctor, prescriptions are being written, he takes the medicine, and thereafter what should happen post
I think we lost Niteesh. I'll give him a minute to come back to wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, sorry, I think there's some connection was
Yeah, I
unstable.
can hear you now, Niteesh. Yeah.
So probably there is a need to track down the entire journey of the patient, and the pharma company need to look at the each of these the level of the patient in a very distinct significant manner, and need to see how they can support the doctor's effort in bringing their services to the patient, whether it's a matter of
I'll give Niteesh a minute to see if we have him back. Otherwise, we will wrap up. But I think I'm personally really encouraged by the couple of points that Niteesh made on the greater digital footprint in the future, the idea of patient centricity, pharma companies being more involved in the entire continuum of care, engaging more with the patient, and finally evolving into a much more holistic health and wellness approach. Nitish, I was just making a wrap-up comment on how you were finally pointing to a more holistic health and wellness approach, and how I'm personally really excited about the idea of a more engaged process with the overall continuum of care. Because finally, what I foresee is this is benefiting the patient. This is benefiting, the final beneficiary in the healthcare system, the patient, in terms of more holistic care. Any quick wrap-up sentence, Nitish, before we close?
Uh, yeah, you very rightly pointed out. So the entire industry actually it the patient was never, and probably the time has come to the companies should start thinking about the patients in a big way, and it's definitely going to be a brighter day for the patient, because ultimately whether it's a pharma company or the doctor, they both sustain because of the patient, and therefore that the patient first that kind of the thought must sink into the industry, and probably that is what is the way forward.
I'm excited and very glad to close on that note. We're very happy 2020 is behind us. But again, this is also the year, though COVID hit us, major digital therapeutics have been approved across the world. The US FDA has gotten on the first major milestone. Healthcare is transforming as we know it. And along with Niteesh, I thank you for joining us. And thank Voice of Healthcare for giving us this platform. Exciting conversation. As always, the way Voice of Healthcare brings it to you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Niteesh. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks. It has been interesting.